Welcome to day 7 of the Visibility Project. I recently watched a video of Maggie Rogers doing the commencement for Tish at Radio City, and she said something that really resonated with me. And she said the first time that she performed at Radio City, when the spotlight hit her and the house goes dark, the only thing you can see are the exit signs. And these 47 or 49 or whatever exit signs in the building. And she talks about how when she got famous, it was this video and everyone saw it. And it was this moment of, such inspiration of seeing this person who was like meant to do this thing be chosen by Pharrell and become famous. And clearly she's meant to do what she's doing. She's talking about all the times she almost quit. And this idea that those exits can also be entrances. That the rejection, the thing not working out, the failure, if you want to call it that way, is a moment that you can choose to exit something, and it's also a moment that you can choose to recommit. And oh, there's a little bunny outside the window. My children are obsessed with that thing. Anywho, I believe this fully with creative work for sure, and other types of work, that one thing no one really taught me was that that's what it's about. It's about being able to continue to bet on yourself and say yes and push through something as much as it is about anything else. And I also believe this is true about healing, that healing is a million tiny choices. It's not one day there's something that comes down upon you and you are healed. Granted, there are, just like with creativity, there are moments or things that can catapult, that can exponentially grow what you're doing, and that's beautiful. But I almost think of healing as a practice, that it's something you keep coming back to. It's something that you align yourself with, that you're on a quest, baby. Like, you are recommitting and coming back to. That doesn't mean that every single day is a day of I'm healing and I'm working through my trauma and I'm like doing the hard work. There's seasons for that and there's seasons for rest. But I'm also going to say, in the seasons of rest, you're not just saying, I'm going to forget this thing altogether and I'm just going to go into a pit of denial and avoidance forevermore. That I always envisioned it like jumping into a lake. That I would go and I would jump in and I would submerge into the work, into trauma processing, into working through a piece. And then my body and being would tell me that's enough for now. And not necessarily a conscious thought of like, oh, that's enough. It's like you can kind of feel that, okay, I need a break. And you get out of the lake and you dry yourself off and you live your life. And then you hit something that tells you, I'm ready and I need to do another piece of this work. And you jump back in. You do the work, you show up, you get out, you dry yourself off, you go live your life, right? That you are showing up to it. And I would argue that even when you're on the shore and even when you're not in the lake, that you are aware of the lake. You are aware that you're going to have to go back in. Doesn't mean every day you're like, oh God, when am I going to have to go do more of this fucking work? No, you're just like, I'm taking a break. I'm living my life. And this is, maybe more for trauma processing specifically, because damn, is that not the hardest work? It is hard, and it's not meant to be done day after day. But healing is a million tiny choices of saying that you want and deserve a better life than to be traumatized, or to be living in a trauma reaction, to be struggling, to be circling something, right? This idea of like a record getting caught and just goes around and around. It's skipping. That's what the word I'm looking for. A record skipping, right? That nobody wants to be a skipping record. We want to be a song. We want to be an album. We want to grow. We want to change. We want to have flexibility and openness and growth and melody, and not just like being in these patterns and these loops. And to me, so much of trauma is that. You know, I remember I was in a clinical trial as a participant for MDMA assisted psychotherapy for PTSD. And I will talk a lot through these 100 days about psychedelic therapy because I believe in it with my whole being. And it has been a huge, huge source of strength and support and healing for me. But I remember going in for an initial appointment, and I was a buzzing ball of anxiety because I felt really embarrassed and really ashamed that I had PTSD, and I was a psychologist, and I had done so much work. I had already come out to my family at that point. I had already healed so much, and I was like, oh, damn if this isn't embarrassing that I still have this diagnosis. I'd actually never had someone like put it on me yet, but I had been on this list for this clinical trial, and I knew about it because of just, you know, reading research, and I had the courage to just put my name on a list. And when I got called and I got these initial appointments, there was a really intense screening process to get through that I was like, you know what, I'm just gonna keep taking a step, a million little tiny choices, one tiny choice. I'm gonna take a step of doing the next screening and see if I get in. And if I get in, I'm gonna do this. And yes, am I embarrassed because I'm a psychologist and I am struggling with this thing? Yes, I am. And I'm embarrassed thinking this is in my community, that they're going to tell. I mean, I know this is a little irrational, but everyone's going to know, and I'm going to be a fraud, and I'm going to be discredited as the professional that I am. You know what? I am a good psychologist, and I was a great student, and I showed up with my clients, and what I have gone through has been a big part of why I'm good at showing up. I'm going to argue that healing yourself is imperative in being able to heal others, but that doesn't mean you need to be at 100% before you start. It just means you need to also be on a path. So anyway, I signed up, got through the screening, and then, you know, the first dosing session, you know, I'm leading up to that. I don't know if I'm going to get placebo or not. That was also like such a mind fuck where you're going into the session like, oh, do I feel something? Do I not? Spoiler alert, I didn't get the placebo, so that was great. But I remember saying to the study therapist, and this might sound like it reeks in self-pity, and it wasn't coming from that place, but I had just said, how many more moments of courage am I going to need? I felt like I had gathered all of my courage so many times. Like these moments that I disclosed what I've been through, that I cut off relationships, that I, you know, did ayahuasca by myself. I mean, I was with a group, but I went by myself to this like random place and with a group of shamans from Colombia. Like, I'm going to talk more about that in another video, but you know, these moments where I'm like, I am so scared, and I also know I have to do this. And I just want to say, like, that is a moment that can be an exit, and it's a moment that can be an entrance. And when you continue to show up and you make a million tiny choices, you choose the entrance over the exit again and again and again, you get to a place then where you can lay it down for the most part, that you're not traumatized anymore, that you get a life of freedom. And that is so worth it. And I think on the creative side of that, what no one tells you, you know, I had this vision that being a creative person and putting some work in the world would mean like, oh, I'm gonna like write one thing, I'm gonna send it to one magazine, they're gonna accept it, and then boom, there we go. That is so insane. I say that to myself respectfully, but like, you talk to anyone who's done this work. There are very few people. We love this story of the Colleen Hoovers and the people who got discovered and they became, you know, their work got huge overnight. It's almost like this feeling of waiting. My point is that's very rare, but we love that story. And I think there's almost been this feeling for me of waiting for someone to give me permission, to ask me to come forth, when the point is taking rejection, taking feedback, figure out who you're taking feedback from, but then stepping up, stepping forth, continuing, rolling it, letting it roll off you. Like, and that to me is also choosing the entrance over an exit. Choosing the thing that's going to help you stay in the game and get to something different, to not be skipping on the record player, to be free, to not let fear be something that forces you to choose to stay small. Because that is hard. It's a hard life to just sit with your trauma and to never deal with it, because you have to do increasingly difficult things to keep yourself from feeling it and facing it, which is another thing I'm going to talk about a lot over these 100 days is different ways we hide, different ways I've hid from trauma and I've tried to cope with it. And those things we can be thankful for and have compassion for because they're part of the healing journey. But I would also argue that living in that space for your whole life is not ideal, right? So thank you, Maggie Rogers. I love you. And I love that idea of the lights go down and you see the exits and you think all of those moments that you could have quit, that you chose to step forth, and that we're looking at healing as almost a spiritual practice that you come back to and you show up to. And sometimes that can also be a question of, what do I need today? What do I need today? Sometimes that's rest. Sometimes that's setting it down. Sometimes that's doing a big piece of the work to work through it. And self-love and self-care is about honoring that part. So, all right. I hope my office is not too echoey. I am going to get some furniture in here. And a rug. So hopefully over these 100 days, you'll see it transform. All right. See you tomorrow. Be there or be square.